Why do you tense up when someone knocks on your door? Why does an unexpected visit feel like a threat not to your safety, but to your soul? Most people brush it off as introversion or social fatigue. But what if there's something deeper going? On inside you, something Carl Jung spent his life trying to uncover? In this video, we explore a chilling truth buried beneath your discomfort with visitors. Jung didn't see the home as just a physical space. It was a sacred symbol of the self. So when someone enters it, especially uninvited, it's not just your privacy being breached. It's your psychic boundary. Jung believed the soul speaks through silence, symbols, and dreams. And sometimes, what we call antisocial behavior is actually a desperate attempt to protect our inner world from chaos. That unease, do you feel when guests come over? It might be the shadow, the hidden part of you trying to keep the noise out long enough for you to finally hear your own voice. We'll dive into the unconscious reasons you might hate visitors: childhood trauma, the hermit archetype, unresolved, emotional residue, or a spiritual transformation demanding solitude. Because maybe your soul doesn't want company. Maybe it wants peace. And maybe, just maybe, your refusal to entertain others isn't a flaw. It's a sacred boundary. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything to avoid facing their own soul." But if you've ever felt shame for simply wanting to be alone, this video will show you that solitude isn't selfish. It's soul work. There's a strange discomfort that stirs when the doorbell rings unexpectedly, a quickening of the heart, a pause in breath, and for some, perhaps for you, a flood of dread. It's not rude. It's not a lack of hospitality. It's something far older, deeper, and often unconscious. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and father of analytical psychology, believed that the parts of ourselves we try hardest to ignore are often the ones trying the hardest to speak. When someone doesn't like visitors, it might not be a matter of introversion or even anxiety. It could be a reflection of their psyche's secret architecture, shaped by trauma, self-protection, and the soul's longing for quiet integration. At the heart of Jung's teachings lies the concept of the shadow, the rejected, denied, or unintegrated parts of the personality that live in the unconscious. These are often born in childhood, when our early environment teaches us that certain behaviors, emotions, or traits are unacceptable. So we hide them, bury them deep in the unconscious. And over time, these hidden aspects of ourselves gain energy, influencing our behavior from behind the curtain. When someone avoids visitors, it could signal a shadow defense mechanism. The outside world represents disruption, confrontation, or vulnerability. The knock at the door becomes a symbolic threat, someone trying to pierce the safety of the inner sanctum. To understand this discomfort with visitors, we must look at the home not just as a structure, but as a metaphor for the psyche. In Jungian psychology, the house often appears in dreams to represent the self. Different rooms can symbolize different parts of the personality. The locked attic, the dark basement, the closed door, these are all symbolic representations of things hidden within us. When you avoid guests, it might not be about them at all. It could be about you protecting the rooms you don't want others or even yourself to enter. Guests bring unpredictability. They force interaction. They often require emotional energy. And if you're someone deeply attuned to inner worlds, this external intrusion can feel like a psychic storm. Carl Jung argued that modern people are often divorced from their inner life. In rejecting spiritual and mythological frameworks, we've lost our connection to archetypal truth, the ancient patterns of behavior, emotion, and instinct that structure our psyche. In this view, the dislike of visitors isn't a quirk, it's a symbolic gesture of the self trying to maintain integrity. It might signal the soul's fatigue, the need for solitude, the yearning for integration, and the refusal to perform. For some, the visitor is a mirror reflecting what we are not, or what we pretend to be. Their presence disrupts the delicate equilibrium of the inner world. If you're on a journey of self-discovery, especially one rooted in deep psychology, this rejection of guests might actually be a stage of inner consolidation. You are gathering your energies inward, drawing back projections, letting go of social masks. And when someone tries to step into your space literally or metaphorically, it threatens this alchemical process. Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But sometimes, avoiding visitors isn't about avoiding the soul, it's about protecting it. It's about not allowing distractions to pollute the sacred dialogue between the conscious and unconscious mind. It's about retreating into the womb of silence, where truth speaks in symbols, and healing occurs not through conversation, but through contemplation. If you hate visitors, ask yourself, what part of me feels exposed when someone enters my space? What part of me is still trying to hide? The human psyche, according to Jung, is shaped by archetypes, universal patterns of behavior and experience, encoded into our unconscious. Among these is the hermit archetype, the spiritual recluse, the wise one who steps away from society to gain insight. While modern culture glorifies extroversion, openness, and hospitality, the hermit exists beyond social obligation. For those who hate visitors, this archetype may be unconsciously active, not as a dysfunction, but as a sacred calling. When your soul is in transformation, it often demands seclusion. Not isolation out of fear, but solitude out of necessity. And so, every knock on the door feels like a violation of that inner temple, but solitude is often misunderstood. In a world of constant noise and connection, choosing silence can appear antisocial or even pathological. Jung challenged this narrative. He believed that many people's distress came not from being alone, but from being alienated from their true self. The individual who dislikes visitors may not be rejecting others, but reconnecting with their own inner landscape. In this quiet, the psyche heals, dreams become vivid, emotions clarify, and intuition sharpens. To invite someone in physically or energetically can feel like invading chaos before the inner foundation is stable. There's also trauma too. Consider, people who grew up in environments where boundaries were disrespected often develop hypervigilance. A doorbell or a knock doesn't signal joy, it signals danger. A nervous system wired by early chaos learns to associate intrusion with pain. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. If your dislike of visitors is rooted in unresolved wounds, then your body may be remembering what your mind has forgotten. The discomfort isn't rude, it's the soul trying to protect itself from being re-traumatized. Let's not overlook spiritual sensitivity. Empaths, intuitives, and deep thinkers often find the presence of others overwhelming. Not because they lack social skills, but because they absorb the emotional residues of the people around them. Jung understood the psyche as a porous boundary, not a hard shell. This means that for some people, even a casual visitor can bring energetic residue that lingers long after they're gone. The space doesn't feel like theirs anymore. It becomes polluted with unseen emotional static. For such individuals, solitude is not a preference, it's a survival strategy. They must protect their space to protect their psychic coherence. Furthermore, there's a symbolic aspect to all this. In Jungian dream work, the act of someone entering your house can represent unwanted ideas, unresolved emotions, or emerging unconscious content breaking through. The visitor is often a symbol, not just a person. When you dislike visitors in waking life, you might actually be resisting a psychological emergence, something within you trying to rise into consciousness. This inner visitor might be a repressed feeling, a forgotten trauma, or a spiritual awakening. And your soul, not yet ready, responds by closing the door. There's a paradox in Jung's work. Transformation requires both connection and isolation. You must face the world, but also withdraw from it. You must interact with others, but also return to yourself. For those undergoing deep inner work, the balance often tilts towards seclusion. If you find yourself increasingly unwilling to have guests, you might not be shutting the world out. You might be listening to the whisper of your soul saying, "Not yet, I am still healing." I am still becoming. Carl Jung believed the psyche strives for individuation, a process of becoming whole by integrating the conscious and unconscious. It is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming real. And in that process, there is often a shedding of social roles, polite obligations, and shallow interactions. The person who once hosted dinner parties now prefers incense and books. The one who once entertained guests now watches their dreams for meaning. And the one who now avoids visitors may, in fact, be stepping into the most authentic stage of their life. In the Jungian framework, the home becomes a symbol of the self. To keep it sacred is to honor the psyche's journey. This is why the avoidance of visitors must not always be pathologized. Sometimes it is a sign of spiritual maturation. You begin to see your space as a container, not just for furniture and routine, but for energy, creativity, and healing. You cleanse it not just with soap, but with intention. You protect it not just with locks, but with boundaries. And when someone seeks to enter, you ask, does this energy serve my process? Will this presence honor my transformation? If the answer is no, your refusal is no to sign off coldness. It is sovereignty. Jung once wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That privilege often demands seasons of solitude. The avoidance of visitors becomes part of your alchemical ritual. You light candles instead of turning on the porch light. You listen to your inner voice instead of answering the knock. You retreat into yourself not to escape life, but to live it more fully. The deeper you go within, the less you tolerate superficial intrusion. Every visitor becomes a test. Are they here to honor your soul or to distract you from it? Even our social discomforts have symbolic meaning. Jung taught that all neuroses are communications from the unconscious. If the presence of others makes you uneasy, there is a message within that feeling. Are you suppressing your authentic self around them? Are you reverting to old roles? Are you absorbing their pain at the cost of your peace? These are not flaws to fix. These are invitations to reflect. When you dislike visitors, your soul may be saying, I need truth, not performance. Stillness, not chatter. Depth, not distraction. Modern life rarely honors this. We are conditioned to equate busyness with value and socializing with success. But the path of the soul is different. It winds inward. It values silence. It grows in darkness. Jung understood this, and he warned that those on the path of individuation would often feel lonely, not because they are broken, but because they are being remade. The dislike of visitors, then, is not a sign of dysfunction. It is a sign that you are listening more closely to the rhythms of your inner world than the noise of the outer one. So the next time you recoil at the sound of the doorbell, don't judge yourself. Instead, ask, what is my soul protecting? What is it preparing for? What is it healing from? And what sacred silence do I not wish to break? Perhaps, like Jung, you are learning that the greatest journey is not outward, but inward. And in that sacred solitude, you are not alone. You are finally meeting yourself.